A very good evening and very good Saturday. We from BBTV. Today we have a special edition. We're taking you live straight from Cape Town, South Africa. We have invited the specialists of creative industry and also specialists in marketing and sales in retail. She has vast experience in South Africa. A well-known creative director will be sharing with us today about the retail scenario and environment of situation in South Africa. I would like to welcome Ms. Suad Holland. Assalamualaikum, Suad. Your mic is off. Your mic is mute.
Oh,
Okay.
Walaikum salam. Hello everyone. I'm very honored to be invited here today. Shukran for inviting me. I'm very excited to hear the kind of questions and the interest that the people of Malaysia have and questions that they might have. Nice to be
Suad,
here.
as you know, Malaysia and South Africa is having a very good government, good relationship in terms of government to government, business to business. We would like to know, or we would like you to share with us during this pandemic in Cape Town or in South Africa. What is the situation now over there?
In terms of the actual pandemic or in terms of the retail environment
The
currently. So I
actual
can start
pandemic
off by
first.
saying, so the actual pandemic, so about a week ago, we moved down to, I think, level 2. For a very long time now, we've been on level 3. So I think our restrictions are slowly starting to ease a little bit. Obviously, we had the Delta variant here in South Africa, and currently I'm in Cape Town in the Western Cape, and the numbers, our peak, it was actually taking quite a while for it to start to slowly go down. But more and more, as people are taking their doses and they're taking the vaccine and the rollout is accelerating, we're hoping that with the more people taking the vaccine, the situation will slowly get better. Currently, a lot of the people that are being hospitalized are people that haven't been vaccinated. And I think that hopefully when the rest of the country starts getting vaccinated, the situation will get better. So I think in terms of restrictions, they're slowly lessening it, although we are expecting a potential fourth wave in December, which obviously from a retail perspective, that's here in South Africa, it's the time when people do the holiday shopping, the Christmas shopping, and that kind of thing. So we'll actually just need to wait and see. But currently, right now, as of last week, we've moved down to level 2. I think in terms of the morale of the company, of the country, I think that it's better in certain parts of the country. It's so funny that a lot of people have been taking like little mini holidays because currently here we are allowed to travel within the country and go on to like little holidays. So I think when they do go for weekends away and stuff like that, it has helped kind of boost the morale of some people, the ability to be able to do that. Yeah.
Suad, as a creative director, what do you do?
Okay, so my job really as a creative director is I work for one of the largest retail companies in South Africa
Yeah,
as a creative director in the advertising agency within the marketing department.
yeah.
So obviously working in a retail environment and the specific retailer is a food, fashion, beauty, home retailer, which means that in terms of how the company performed during COVID, the fact that we had a food business as well really helped, I suppose with I suppose job security for myself, for example. Because the one thing that obviously happened during COVID was a lot of people either they lost their jobs or the hours were cut short or something like that. But funnily enough, for myself, working in the retail environment, we actually kept busy. You know, we were working from home. We still had to do marketing campaigns. We still had to advertise the stuff that was going out. And for me, one of the great things that I enjoyed during the lockdown was the fact that a lot of the retailers kind of came together to try and help the COVID situation. And how they did this was a lot of people were obviously, you know, because they didn't have jobs or they've lost some of their jobs. There were a lot of families like in need of like food and like blankets and stuff like that. And what was really amazing during COVID is a lot of the big retailers came together and they started collecting donations and doing drives and stuff and actually delivering and handing out grocery hampers to a lot of the communities in the more like the smaller areas, and not just the smaller areas, to like some other places where people were in need of food. Because as lockdown levels stayed locked down for months, the situation started to get dire and people were going hungry. So I think, you know, working, that was the best part for me, or the best part of my job during the pandemic. Now, however, things are opening up, you know, people are going back to their jobs and stuff. So things are getting a little bit better, but very slowly. And
Okay.
sorry, as a creative director, yeah?
Yeah. So, you were mentioning to me just now, you have to work from home. So I believe
Yes.
the entire top management of the company that you work, or other company too, they work from home during the pandemic. Uh, the past almost 2 years of pandemic, what do you think about working from home? Is a good method of working to be continue, or what do you think? Because Tony Fernandez, Air Asia owner, recently was quoting that during the pandemic, working from home is teaching him to cut costs and more effective. So what do you think and your view about working from home?
Okay, so I personally love working from home. I think that for me, it feels like in my team at least, productivity has increased. In fact,
Oh,
I
okay.
think there's different levels to actually working at home. I think the first thing, you need to be disciplined, you know, because I think before, when you were going into the office, you know, there would be like moments in between meetings where you have a bit of a break. Now, currently, you can turn off a Microsoft Teams meeting and go straight into another meeting. So sometimes your entire day is just filled with meetings. So that part isn't great. But what I do love is the fact that, you know, I spend less time in traffic, um, um, and I actually can, if there is time, have lunch at home. Because normally my work day would be super busy. You know, be going from one meeting to another meeting, being in presentations. It was relentless and nonstop. I'm not saying it's still the same way, but I feel like the fact that I'm doing it in the comfort of my own home at the moment, I prefer personally. I think everybody has a different take on it. I do miss, because the nature of my job is collaboration. You know, the nature of my job is to work with the people in my teams as well. So we do miss the time that we have, that we can brainstorm concepts together. But we do find time to do it either on Teams, or now that the levels have decreased, or at least loosened up a little bit, we are finding times to meet and do and in certain gatherings and actually brainstorm a bit more. But fundamentally, I think where we're going to be shifting is more into like a hybrid scenario, where
Okay.
maybe 3 days you work at home, 2 days, you know, you go into the office.
Oh, okay.
So that might change. We're busy working out what that's like.
Yeah, is that the new direction of the company, or
Yes, I think moving forward, a lot of retailers are, well, not retailers, a lot of companies, they are looking at the different methods that they can almost make a customized version for each
okay,
company, you know?
okay,
So
okay,
for example, within our company, some people might have to go in, you know, and those are people that are store staff. You know,
okay,
it's if you're in a store, you have to obviously go in.
yeah,
But, and it's not just management, it's throughout the entire company. Whoever can work from home will be able to work from home in the future. We are
okay,
busy working together to find out what the best way is to do that.
okay. So, there is a question that we would like to know: how this retail in South Africa is handling the COVID and beyond it. How they managing it, the retail?
So I think right at the beginning, when COVID first started in South Africa, it was obviously very difficult for fashion retailers specifically, you know,
Okay.
because there were a lot of protocols that had to be put in place. We had to think obviously of the safety of store staff. You had to think of, like, for example, fitting rooms and changing rooms, you know.
Oh,
It's not always the most safest place to be during that time. So for the first couple of months, a lot of the clothing retailers were either closed or it was cordoned off. So, for example, if there was a retailer that had a food section and a fashion section, they would just close off the fashion section. So, and the same with with shopping for food. There were long queues outside all of the retailers where
okay.
there was strict amount of like social distancing between everybody, and
Okay.
the amount of people that was allowed to go in store was limited.
Okay.
Now, like I said, that has decreased as the levels have decreased, and things are slowly picking up. What has happened, however, really in South Africa, is that a lot of home businesses
Okay.
have actually sprung up, which is really good. You know,
Okay.
so for example, during COVID, there were a lot of people starting their own businesses from home, or whether it was cooking meals and foods and delivering it to different people. You could
Okay.
order it on an app, you
Yeah.
could phone order, and they would deliver it.
Okay.
And that has been really good for the local industry here
Okay.
as well, because
Okay.
we have been forced, retailers have all been forced to look at different channels of suppliers, for example, you
Okay.
know,
Okay.
whereas over the past, before, because ships weren't allowed to come in or planes weren't allowed to come in, a
Yeah.
lot of the products from, like, for example, whether it is like anywhere else in the world, it wasn't allowed to come in. So there would be long delays on product coming in. So we were almost forced to re-look at the supply chain and see where else we can get stuff. And that was great, I think, for local people.
Okay. So with the local people that do business from home, is that affecting the real
Yes.
retail outlet outside there?
I think it is. I think what I do think is that there's potential opportunity for collaborations between the local people working from home, you know, and
Okay.
the retailers, you
Okay.
know. You
Okay.
see, I know in the past there's been a lot of this thing about like collaboration, you know,
Yeah.
and retailers maybe sponsoring or helping, you know, the smaller home person, either by representing the product in their stores, you know, giving them an outlet to sell it there. So I think that there's a lot of that happening around, you know. So as opposed to seeing it as competition,
Okay.
potentially there's a way that it can be like an ecosystem, you
Okay.
know.
Okay. That's very good to hear. You've been to Langkawi. Uh, in Malaysia, we have come to the next level where the government is opening the local tourism, so that the government is allowing the second dose citizen allowed to go out for traveling for holidays, but within the countries. One of the island, which is Langkawi, is been chosen to be the platform to test what is going to be the future of tourism, to move forward tourism after this second phase. So we see for the past 1 week, it looks good, and there is some fine tuning need to be done in Langkawi for the SOP. What happened in Cape Town? Is your government allowed people to come to Cape Town for holiday, or can your citizen goes out to other places in Africa for holidays, or what is the situation over there? Because this will
So,
be
so
this will be good for retail if the government is allowing tourism or opening the economy.
Yeah, so I mean, South Africa and Cape Town especially has always been a very like a very busy tourist destination, and I think that the tourism industry specifically has taken a very big hit during COVID, and it's not just here, I think worldwide. The hotels, the eating places, a lot of those retail or tourist places, they've definitely taken a hit. And like I said before, during COVID, there was a lot of support, even locally, for some of the restaurants that started doing home deliveries, so that really helped as well. But in terms, and so they changed their way or their operating system where the restaurants kept their kitchen open. People weren't allowed to sit down, but you could still order food and they would deliver to your house, okay. Which was great.
Okay.
The thing about tourism right now, we are allowed under the level that we are currently at to go to, for example, we in Cape Town, we can fly to Joburg, we can fly to Durban, we can drive throughout, we can go anywhere in South Africa at the moment, and certain neighboring countries to go on holiday. So I know that some people have booked tickets to go to Zanzibar or have gone to like Zimbabwe or different other places within Africa where they're allowed. Namibia, for example, some people have gone there as well. It all depends on that particular country. Sorry, I'm just putting my phone in silent. It all depends on that particular country that they are in.
Okay.
So what is nice is that there's been a lot of discounted rates. So a lot of the travel agencies or the actual hotels, they've got like less 50%, some even less 70%, which is actually good for like local people here, because sometimes the local people couldn't afford to go to a lot of those kind of 5-star, 4-star places because it was so expensive, because it was more targeted to international clients.
Yes.
So what has been great is that now like a lot of the local people could go and like to the game reserves or places that they wouldn't ordinarily been able to go to.
Okay. Pandemic, retail is down, e-commerce take place. What is the situation in South Africa for e-commerce?
I think it is moving really fast. There's a lot of, we have like a lot of, Takealot is probably one of the biggest places that we've got here that will deliver to everybody. And I think every single retailer have had to invest a lot of money and quickly, to get their e-commerce platforms up to scratch. Because before COVID, there were a lot of and it was slowly increasing. There were a lot of online shops that you could buy stuff from, and a lot of them popping up. But COVID has almost forced retailers to move faster. They couldn't afford to slow down.
Is more higher?
They had to invest.
Yes,
definitely.
The competition is more higher?
Yes, I think so. Online, especially, you see you guys know, when people start when you can't leave your house and you're forced to stay in for certain level lockdown, and the only way you can get food or games or stuff like that, you could only order it online, and that's why retailers, they were forced to actually up their game and so they could be part of the the online upswing. What has actually also happened was home retailers have actually done really well. So people, because they're staying at home, they're now making their house better. People have been, installing gyms at home, or making their house or flat or little area feel more almost like a staycation, or like a home, like a holiday house. Because if you're forced to stay at home, they want to be more comfortable, so homeware sales have actually really been going up.
Okay.
Specifically.
Suad, we have one question that we want to know. It's very important for us to understand, and we want you to share with us on how South Africa consumer spending recovery plan during this pandemic.
Just clarify the question for me. When you say spending
South
recovery
Africa consumer
plan?
spending recovery plan.
I think that probably a lot of consumers, not a lot of people can actually save probably during this time. And I'm just talking from a financial point of view, you know,
Yeah.
it probably has been very difficult over the past year for people to even save. I think a lot of people had to dip, and this is just my opinion. I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people have had to dip into their savings, you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they maybe had to put aside, and now slowly, you know, they've had to start re-looking their budgets and what they would normally be spending their money on. So, you know, and being more strict with their budget, whether it's entertainment and what kind of entertainment it is, you know, where they want to actually spend their money, you know, is it stuff that's a bit more frivolous, or if it's things that they really need to actually, I would say survive is the first thing, and then secondly would be to actually make sure that that's them and their family. I think a lot of people are first prioritizing them and their family before they even think about doing a lot of other stuff first. And I think that for me, the recovery plan, it'd be very much way more strict. I think they're definitely going to be cutting down on a lot of what is deemed luxuries, you know?
Okay.
Um, I don't know if that answers your question, or if you've
Yes, yes,
got a
yes.
different way of phrasing it, maybe.
At least we understand the situation over there. It's like in Malaysia. We would like to share with you. The government take the effort to negotiate with the banks. The central bank negotiate with all the commercial banks by giving moratorium, things like that, you know. And back to e-commerce question, like Malaysia, during the pandemic, the government decided to invest on digitalizing it, digitalize our country, pushing very hard for retailers to go for online, digital. Many grants be given out to retailers to go into e-commerce in Malaysia. The government supported the grant. For example, if you have a retail shop, the government is pushing you to go into digitalize and e-commerce your business, and the government gives you grant 5,000 ringgit to help you how to market your product in digital marketing. Is this happening, something like this happening in South Africa?
So not exactly like that, no. Not that I can actually recall.
Okay.
What did happen at the beginning of COVID was that the government obviously had put aside an amount of money that they were going to use to help the people that could not go to work during the time of COVID, you know? So
Okay.
now there's usually like a government grant that certain people get every month. A lot of that budget was supposedly put aside to actually just increase that monthly amount that people were getting, you know, because remember, a lot of people working in South Africa, like the normal average person, they would need to travel, and a lot of people travel every day, which I'm sure is the same in Malaysia as well. They have to travel by public transport to go to their jobs, you know, whether it's working on building sites, whether it's working in stores, whether it's doing whatever. So a lot of people could not actually go to their normal day-to-day jobs, so they were forced to just stay at home. And the idea was that the government would then take whatever money that they had put aside, which was received by many, like a lot of people actually donated money to that cause. It was called, I can't remember the name of the fund, but it was used to supposedly hand out money to some of the people that could not go and do that. So that's the one thing. The second thing that they did do was they also, like you guys did, spoke to the banks and stuff to look at certain bond repayments that people might have on their homes, to see how they could renegotiate, you know, certain debt that people had and stuff like that. But specifically putting money aside to help retailers with the e-commerce, as far as I understand, that specifically did not happen, to my knowledge.
We're still in the e-commerce question or e-commerce subject, Suad. We have a report from Reuters in Joburg. One of the person has gone into e-commerce, online shopping business, and apparently she's not happy with the response from the consumer. As a creative director, what is your advice to those new retailers from home? How do they they need to venture into e-commerce to make their venture into e-commerce successful? Meaning what they need to do when they venture into e-commerce. Because some people, they say,
So,
oh, I go online, people will come and buy. But people don't. But how do
so
you understand
okay, so my
my
opinion, I do. So
yeah,
I think that, so my answer to that would be that, firstly, with anything that you do, especially in retail, you need to promote it. You know, the
yeah,
whole point of like marketing is to market something and promote something. You know, there's a lot of people, I think, that have really amazing products, but they don't actually invest or put money behind promoting whatever their product is.
yeah,
So even if you've got an amazing website or you have an amazing product, you can't just post it and expect people to come, you know? Um, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that gets done, not necessarily by me, but obviously some of my colleagues who would work out the right way in which to push the content, if I can call it like that,
yeah,
or
yeah.
whether it's search function. So I would say search is a big thing. So you know, when you type in anything onto Google or any kind of search, whatever, when you type in, so for example, you type in I don't know, fashion retailer, and you
Okay.
type in fashion retailer, you'll
Yeah,
see what comes up first.
yeah.
Those retailers that come up first, they are paid. It's you pay to come up first. You know what I mean? It's
Okay,
called
okay,
search.
okay.
So you have to promote it, and whether you're paying Google, whether you're paying Facebook, or whatever it is, so that you appear on it. So there has to be at least some form of investment in promoting your product that you have. Um, and how do you promote that? You can do it in different ways, whether it's social posts, whether it is, taking out different kinds forms of advertising on digital banners, etc., stuff like that. But I would say you have to market your product if you're going to, put something out there. Unless, of course, you collaborate with a well-known person and they then promote it on their channels as well. But it's a very big ecosystem of different things that all need to be in place. I mean, you can call it an omni-channel, I suppose. But yeah, does that help answer that question?
Uh, Suad, when you talk about e-commerce, search engine, we have to pay Google, this, that. Do you have a company that provide training for those people or those retailers that wants to learn how to market their product in e-commerce platform?
Well, so that's a whole specific other course which I personally haven't done. Like
Okay.
everyone has their different expertise. I can only speak from what my experience has been with working with my colleagues that have to promote the work that we do. So a
Yeah.
big part of my job is obviously not just working with my team, who will design, whether it is advertising, whether it's a TV ad, whether it's digital content that needs to live
Yeah.
online,
Yeah.
whether it's
Yeah.
banners, whether it's an emailer, whatever it is. We will design it, and then we work with our digital and social media team,
Yeah.
and they will then advise and tell us, okay, this piece of content needs to be 30 seconds and it needs to live on an Insta story, or this needs to be live on YouTube, or this needs to be so they would have studied, or gone on a course to help them, really give the best advice to us.
Yeah.
So within any marketing team, there's a whole lot of different people, and everyone has their different expertise. There isn't one person that's the full-on expert on everything. So we have to work together to say, okay, fine. If I do this, then what is the best platform to use to market this?
Yeah.
And then they will come back to me and say, well, you know what, this needs to be like this is how long it needs to be, and we need to put our marketing budget behind search as well as social media, and then display ads. And you know what, do we need to print something? Do we need to go on TV? Does it need to go on radio? So there's a whole team, a media team that we have that will decide that and come back to us and advise us on it, and we will work together to decide what the best marketing approach should be for whether it's a campaign or whether it's a specific product that we want to launch. Yeah.
Okay. Suad, just to share with you, during the pandemic, from the first pandemic until today, in Malaysia, the government, under the Ministry of Human Resource, have created a big budget to give away for people or for the citizen that have no job or been terminated, or the company has closed and they got no job. They can apply any training classes in e-commerce. The training will be paid by the government, and they can start do their business by themselves from home or from wherever. But the training will be provided, and the payment or the fees for the payment will be paid by the government for them. Is that happening also in South Africa? Do you have that kind of system?
I wish it was. I wish that was happening here. I mean, it would be nice if someone came and said, "Oh yeah, yes, you can go and learn this new skill, and
Yeah.
then you can, if you've got your own home business,
Yeah.
you can help yourself." I
Yeah.
always think that if you teach a man to fish, and then
Yeah.
in the long run, it will
Yeah.
be better for the actual economy. And I think
Yeah.
that something like that, I think, is great. I'm sure that there are different other courses and stuff that the government does have, and different other stuff that they have in place. But I think that specifically that you spoke about, I think it would be great. Because like I said before, there's a lot of people that have started their own small little business. They are little home entrepreneurs. They're working from home. They might be just selling a sauce that they're making. They might be weaving baskets or doing something else. It's difficult if you make products and you don't have either a way to market it, or have a source of like a supply chain where, someone will sell it for you. So I think for people to learn how to market it, to sell their own stuff, I think it's a great skill to have. Not even for product, but just how to sell yourself, to be able to go afterwards to like a job interview or something like that and have the skill set to actually sell yourself to be able to get a job.
Yeah.
I think it's great that they're doing that.
This is what happening in Malaysia until today. Those people who has got no job, they can go to the Ministry of Human Resource. They got the list of classes and training, and you can go into it, and the government pays for you. And after that, you can either work for people or you can work from home. But my next question is, the New York Times report 2 days ago, many retailers has closed down. One of the retailers has closed down 40 stores worldwide, is the Starbucks coffee. Okay, I believe you have so many cafes and type of Starbucks in Cape Town, in South Africa. Is there any shutdown due to pandemic?
So I think there are some coffee shops that have closed down. We don't have as many Starbucks, for example, in South Africa that like you would have in Malaysia, for example.
Yeah.
Just in Cape Town alone, I think there's like less than 10 Starbucks. It might even be in the whole of South Africa. I don't exactly know the amount of Starbucks there is. But what I can tell you is that there have been businesses that have slowed down in terms of the staff, and some of them might have closed, but not to the big degree, for example, where like one chain has closed down 40, not to my knowledge. Like I said before, we are supporting like the local restaurants. So a lot of people, where before we were so used to, at some point in lockdown, when everybody was baking banana bread and they were, cooking and buying ingredients and making all these things. Eventually, I think a lot of people started not cooking and saying we need to support the people, either the restaurants or support the coffee shops, or support the people making the home food by ordering stuff via, whether it's Uber Eats or Mr. Delivery or stuff like that. So I think that in terms of supporting restaurants, the people are making the effort to do that, because remember, our restrictions now allow us to go to a coffee shop. We are allowed to sit there currently. And even when we were on level 3, you could go in and still order something, even though you couldn't sit down and eat it there. So I don't think it's necessarily as dire as like closing, for example, all the mug and beans. in South Africa, because we have like a lot of mug and beans here, or like a lot of the other smaller coffee shops that we've got. But they're surviving. Like they're hanging on there by their fingernails, I would say. For now, there hasn't been a mass shutdown of any of those
Okay.
coffee shops yet.
The retail on the F&B is still sustainable, and they are focusing on, I believe, home deliveries.
F&B,
Yes, like McDonald's,
you mean like the
Kentucky,
back?
Nando's, things like
Oh,
that.
oh, yeah. Like so, there's this new place, in fact, that opened up now. I actually just downloaded it onto my phone. It's called Bolt as well, where they actually have every day. And I only discovered this like 2 days ago. Like sometimes every day they have like a different discount on some
Yeah,
of the food items that's on there.
yeah,
So if it's Kentucky, like maybe today it will be there's 50% off if you order on Bolt.
yeah,
So a lot of people are running like these specials, but it might not be on like all the other stuff. So I've got on my phone, for example, I have Uber Eats, I have Mr. Delivery, I have Bolt. I move around with all the different apps to see what
yeah.
and when we order. And I think a lot of people are checking to see, oh, who's having a promotion today? Where's the special today? And that's how
Okay,
people are shopping.
okay,
You're almost not being um, sticking to one thing. You're moving around on all the different stuff to see where
yeah,
you get the best deal. That's what
yeah.
I'm doing at least.
Suat, we're going to take a short break, and we'll come back to you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, we are back after the short break. We'll still with Suat Holland. We'll come back to her now with few more questions about the retail, and she will be sharing with us about how to improve your retail during the pandemic in your country. Okay, Suat, are you there?
I'm here. I
Okay.
didn't run away yet.
Okay, just now we were talking about F&B, cafes, cooking from home. Now is very high demand in your country. What about fashion retail? Now the shopping mall has opened. What about fashion retail, supermarket? Is this coming back?
To be honest, I feel like all fashion retailers at the moment, I think they've had to look and see what clothing they're actually offering. I think a lot of people want clothing that's probably more comfortable. A lot of people are wanting to spend more time outside, outdoors. People are going running, hiking, trying to be more active after being cooped up for so many months inside. So I think firstly, they've had to look and see what actual clothing that they are offering. Um, but I think that I don't think sales have been that amazing. I think that they're going to be struggling, and I think when the fourth wave hits, will probably be struggling a little bit more. I think only the really smart ones will look at what they're selling and what they're offering and see if they can adjust to what the consumer actually wants. I might be wrong. There might be a whole thing where people are tired of being wearing tracksuits and gowns for the past couple of months, and decide, well, actually, they want to be more like adventurous. They want to be more, they want to dress up. And you never know what might happen in December. It's New Year's, there might be some more parties, even though it's much smaller ones, and people might want to just dress up a little bit more. But I think generally, fashion retailers have all been suffering.
Yeah.
Except, like I said, if they have homely offerings as well.
So at Christmas are coming around the corner, and South African majority of them are celebrating Christmas. Okay,
Yes.
are you looking at? I'm talking about retail. What do you think about the? I'm talking about the fashion still, fashion retail. What do you think about consumer reaction on the fashion retail? Is it going to be the high-end brand or the middle low brand who's going to push up the sale?
So I think that Christmas specifically, like I said before, I think that customers have actually told us that they're going to be focusing more on like smaller family gatherings.
Yeah.
There will be so it's not necessarily going to be like the big Christmas parties we've had in years before. And when you
Yeah.
have big Christmas parties, people will generally dress up, and
Yeah.
have a couple of different outfits to go to all the different parties.
Yeah.
I think that customers more and more, they want to focus more on their smaller household families.
Okay.
And the things that they're going to be doing with maybe just the extended family, like whether it's like a grandmother or something that's living with him. And I think that when it comes to sales, I think it might be mostly in the comfort space still and more in the outdoor. So I think retailers that are selling more outdoor clothing, whether people are going to go camping or glamping or whatever it is, I think those retailers will probably experience better sales than, for example, ones that are doing more high fashion outfits, because it's going to be more family gatherings as opposed to like bigger other parties.
Okay, so
that would be mine.
Retailers, are they going e-commerce too in South Africa? We know food,
most retailers,
F&B are going for e-commerce online.
No.
Is retailers like fashion all goes to e-commerce too?
Yes, definitely. I mean, they've had to be. Like most of the fashion retailers, in fact, probably all of the big fashion retailers definitely have an e-commerce platform. I mean, they've had to have one to survive.
Okay. So the online, during this pandemic, the online business are helping the retailers to keep on going on their business, right?
Yes, and I think not only online, but also social media. I think there's a lot of people using Instagram, for example, as a place to shop,
Okay.
So Instagram, I feel, has become quite a big platform for especially smaller home businesses and stuff to actually advertise their stuff, because they might have had initially their friends and family on it, but now more than ever I think there's been this rise in shopping off Instagram, especially like food stuff, because especially during COVID, people were all baking and cooking stuff and then posting the stuff on Instagram, and then some people started selling some of the things that they were making. So I think in terms of e-commerce, for me, e-commerce isn't just obviously like a website. It's definitely like these social platforms as well.
Yeah. Suad, we'll be talking about F&B, we're talking about e-commerce, we're talking about retail, we're talking about how to help the view of people going into e-commerce, things like that. But, this pandemic, COVID-19, worldwide, is given us a very big impact. How big is the impact to retail in Cape Town or South Africa during this pandemic, COVID-19?
I think that the long-term impact of it might actually be either better or worse in the long run. I think over the past almost 2 years now, right, there obviously has been a huge impact specifically on the fashion retail, right? Food, not so much. Food retailers have done much better. And like I said, homey retailers have done much better. I think fashion, we'll only need to see how sustainable they actually are, probably within the next year to year and a half.
Okay.
I don't think that the full effects have really been experienced yet, to be honest. And I can't honestly say that it would be in my expertise to say that this is exactly where it will be. I just think that for me, looking at the trend of certain sales, it has been mostly focused on fashion, food, on homeware, food, and obviously when it is fashion, it's been more on like leisure wear and more comfortable, like outside stuff, whether it's yoga outfits or the accessories that go with creating a more experiential kind of thing, not just party wear.
So I have interesting question that I want you to share with us. You've been to Malaysia and you know Petronas, one of the largest
Yes, Twin Towers.
petrol oil and gas company, and you've been to see our petrol station of Petronas. It's like a supermarket, and you have engine over there. And now Petronas, during the pandemic, they are collaborating with the household to send food to the station for retail. Okay, do you think it's a good idea for retailers like you all sharing the business, whereby allowing all these small homemade food product to collaborate with giant retailers like you? We have Eon Bake. If you go to Eon Bake, we have one corner homemade area where they allowed all those homemade product to display and to start selling in the supermarket. Do you do that in Cape Town, or do you have any intention to collaborate with the homemade? Because some of the homemade, or maybe majority of the homemade food are very good and fresh. So our retailers.
So I can.
Please.
Firstly, can I answer? Okay.
Yes,
So I think that there's definitely been, like I said before, there's definitely been a very big trend specifically on local,
Yeah.
and looking at local suppliers. And I think each brand, the way that they collaborate with a local person is slightly different. Each company might do it in a little bit different way. If you are a bigger retailer, obviously there are certain quality control and stuff like that obviously suppliers would need to tick off those certain boxes, but there is definitely, I would say, most of the retailers currently, they are looking for the opportunities to collaborate with local people, whether it is not even in just product but helping them to actually make the product, whether it's designing certain packaging that some of the product might go into, whether it is if it's a beauty product, for example, using local people to source some of the ingredients that go into the product. And I think when you look at a lot of the retailers, in the past they have done like local collabs and stuff, but now more and more it's become more imperative because the supply chain has generally been almost cut off in certain areas. So yes, I do think that we need to watch the space. I think it's going to be a very big, I think it should be something that we all push for. And I know that me, myself, in the job that I currently have, where possible, we always try to collaborate with local suppliers. When I say local, it's not just South Africa, but even within the communities that we are in, like more and more, for example, if you are within a smaller section of Cape Town, I think there's an opportunity for retailers to collaborate with the local people in that specific area. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to just be like, and then each retailer can be slightly different in the area that they are at. So that person doesn't need to incur costs necessarily of transporting stuff over borders in provinces and stuff like that. I think there's an opportunity to collaborate very much locally with the local supermarket,
Okay. So if you make a little bit research on a brand called Mark and Spencer in London, they have focusing their change of type of retail business from fashion into more into supermarket, F&B food. Okay, and in Malaysia and Asian region, they are moving towards that. So they are going to cut their expansion of fashion, and they're going to expand more on their supermarket, which is food. Okay, They believe that food retail business will bring them big returns. What do you think about that in South Africa? Well, will big retailers like whoever that has in South Africa, will they move towards that direction? Meaning, they have one big shopping mall with supermarket, but they have chain of mini 24 hours supermarket outside the mall, which is at all the neighboring areas, like 7-Eleven.
Okay, so currently already in South Africa, some of the food retailers specifically, they are in certain like petrol stations, if you can call it that,
Yeah.
which is open 24 hours.
Okay.
So a lot of the big food retailers, they've maybe collaborated with different petrol stations to set up a small little mini version of their store where they sell some of the basic essentials that people might need, over like 24 hours. So that has been around for years here in South Africa. We've been doing it for a long time, But I think that it might more and more, there might be smaller spaces opening up as opposed to like bigger malls where there's a lot of people congregating, in a space. I think that initially when COVID hit, a lot of people were scared to go to like the bigger malls as well. The malls were empty. People tried to go to the closest shop or the closest place that was to their homes because we couldn't drive, to like far places as well because there'd be roadblocks, etc. So I think there's still a lot of people that actually don't go to malls, even though here currently in Cape Town in South Africa they are all open. So I think that definitely like the smaller little spots would probably still work well moving to the future because there's still this kind of fear of some malls that people might have.
Okay. Yeah. This is the question that a lot of citizens, I believe, in South Africa, they also want to know from you. In Malaysia, also people want to know why, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the food prices goes up. Why? From the retail.
So look, I can honestly say that I think that the reason food prices probably went up was because the supply chain was cut. You know what I mean? Why does a price of anything go up?
What do you mean by supply chain was cut? What do you mean by that?
No, I mean that it's difficult to, for example, get the food to the store. So remember, like you have a shop, and if you can't get the bread to the actual shop, it might take days or you have to pay extra to let it get there, whatever it is. I think that's why a lot of the prices went up on certain stuff is because it just wasn't available. It was difficult to actually get it. Remember, borders were closed, couldn't get certain things in. And also to a large extent, I think a lot of the retailers here in South Africa, they actually cut some of their prices, or they offered like discounts or stuff on certain items that were essentials so that people could actually afford it. Like I said before, I think there's certain things that are obviously regulated, like the price of certain bread or whatever. But I don't think that. The only thing I remember, there was a story around ginger, the price of ginger, for example, becoming really expensive, because all of a sudden everyone wanted to put ginger in their tea. So there was this one incident, but I think that was kind of all like sorted out again. But generally, I think the reason prices go up is because obviously those retailers have to survive as well. So they need to be able to source the best or get the product at the best prices so that they can offer us the best prices as well. So yeah, I think it's because the actual cost of it went up.
Okay.
That's 6 minutes.
Suad, as a creative director, do you think South Africa need a food bank to help the people of South Africa during the pandemic COVID-19?
So we do have food banks. We even have something called a clothing bank.
Okay.
Like they are. So when I say a food bank, when I mentioned earlier, when COVID started, there was a lot of retailers that all came together and they did this thing where they would collect food, that would then be distributed to the people in the communities where it actually needed. So, for example, you'd go shopping into a retailer and they'd have a trolley there or a basket or something. And if you went and you bought something, you could put it into that basket.
Okay.
And then they would collect it at the end of the day, and then they would distribute it via, like, whether it's Gift of the Givers or different other organizations they would then collaborate with them to distribute the product and the food to the different communities. And like I said before, for me, that was the best part of my job, I would say, last year, was being involved in some of those projects, or marketing some of those initiatives where people could collect food for the needy and for the help for the people that actually needed the sustenance during that time. And it's still ongoing. It hasn't stopped, There's this whole big initiative to alleviate hunger, because the most important problem, I think, worldwide or in any country at the moment are the people that are going hungry. And they're going hungry because they've either lost their jobs during COVID, or the hours have been cut, or something like that. And it's not just retailers. I think there's a lot of good people, a lot of communities that have actually come together, and they're helping their fellow human beings, which I think should continue.
Suad, our last question to you, we'd like you to share your view and your opinion as a creative director, and you have long experience in marketing and in retail. Many people in South Africa or in the world are jobless due to the pandemic. What is your view for them to move on their life if they got no job? Are your views or your advice for them to start to do something from home base, or still hunting for job, which they don't know whether, we don't know when they can get the job. So what is your advice to this kind of citizen that happening in your country, my country, and other countries?
That's a very difficult question, because I think that's probably one of the most difficult questions that you can ask another person, because it's like when they say, how do I solve world peace? Like there isn't one right answer, and everyone will have a different viewpoint on that. But what I will say, and I mean, I can sit here and say that, oh, you should do this, but each individual person is different. Everybody's circumstances are different. What I can say is that I feel that if you can find something to do that either is something that you're good at, and try and use that as a platform to spring off. If you can do something, like I said, a lot of people doing something from home, whether it's baking, whether it's sewing something and selling it, whatever it is. I think that it's you need to try and do something, I suppose. And this answer sounds quite like, it feels like I don't really have the answer for that, but I feel that if people tap into what they're good at, that's always something to do. But I mean, I can sit here in my nice house and like preach and say this is what people should do. I've never really been in a circumstance like that. So yeah, I mean, besides making a lot of dua as well, I think that if the government and communities can help, and always, there's always the thing like charity begins at home as well, like for me, it's like, do what you can for another human being. Like if you can give, but also, try and teach a man to fish, like I said earlier. If you can help people with a skill set, if you can, then do that. And this is what you can probably do for another human being. But if you're one of that person, I think you just need the hope. You need someone to keep on giving you hope that you can do something. Because I mean, a lot of people have been depressed over this time, and I just feel like it's a very difficult question to actually answer. But yeah, I hope.
Before we end the show, the last question that we want you to share with us is, what is your advice towards the retailers of the way they have to move on from this phase 2 of their business?
I think that it's probably just put your head down and just keep on doing what you're doing, but also look and see like what the customer actually wants. I think we need to listen to the customers, and actually listen to what they need, what they want, as opposed to us just saying, oh, we think that that this is what they need. I think things are changing constantly, and customer research, I think, is very, very important, so that retailers actually, when they deliver stuff or when they invest their money in different, whatever sectors, it's because they're answering a need that the customer has. I mean, for me, that is really like the core thing around selling. And, if you have something to sell, you need to understand that there's a demand for it as well. So for me, I would say the biggest advice I would say is just listen to your customer, really listen to them, and then answer their questions, and yeah, that would be my advice.
Okay, to all the retailers, listen to your customers. That is the advice coming from the expert of creative brand specialists. Thank you very much, Noan. Assalamualaikum. We shall meet you again very soon.
Inshallah. Okay. Salam.
Salam.